Hey guys, welcome back. If you're new here, my name is Becca and today we are going to be doing some cathartic book window shopping, I guess. So today's video I think is going to be called something like books that are on my radar. I'm filming a cozy little video today. I have my coffee because the wonderful Linda just sent me some cinnamon vanilla coffee creamer and I just had to try them out immediately and they're really, really good. For the last few days I have been feeling not great and something that makes me feel better is book shopping. But I don't need any new books right now, and usually when I get this itch, my top tip is to go to the library and borrow a book, because that for me satisfies the need to kind of have a new book and be excited about having a new book. But we are currently in lockdown, so I cannot go to the library, browse and satisfy the urge that way. So instead I thought we would have a cozy little chat about some of the books that I would be buying if I was going to buy a book right now, which I am absolutely not. There are a couple of books that I am going to be buying soon, so they're not really going to be in this video. Like, I need to pick up Rhythm of War by Brandon Sanderson, which is released soon and I will be reading soon. But we're just going to get started. The first ones I have are all from the same kind of series. They are 3 installments of a collection of books, I think from Adams Media. They are Fairies, Unicorns and Mermaids, the Myths, Lore and Legends. So there is a little bit of a story time with this. There's a discount bookstore in the UK called The Works. I think I saw all 3 of these in there last year. They were really inexpensive. However, I wanted to look them up before I decided if I wanted them, and I just could not find them anywhere. So recently I was watching one of Joshana's videos from Cerulean C and she had one of these books and I was like, those are the books. So using the information from the book that she had, I actually managed to track them down. So this is a series of, I think there's 7 or 8 out in total. I don't know if they're still printing them, and as far as I can tell they are reference books about mythical and magical creatures. So aside from the ones on fairies, mermaids and unicorns, they do also have vampires, there's wizards, I think there's a dragon one and there's a leprechaun one. There may be more of that, but these are just not easy to find. They're not listed anywhere as a series. They're all just separate books. So you kind of have to use keywords to search them and find more of them. So if anybody knows somewhere where there is like a comprehensive list of all of these books, then please let me know. The myth, lore and legend of fantastical creatures is something that I'm interested in. Eventually I would like to own all of these. However, the fairies, mermaids and unicorn ones are the ones that I found that are most easily available. I would also love both the collector's edition of Shadow and Bone and also Lives of Saints by Leigh Bardugo. I already have the collector's edition of Six of Crows and Crooked Kingdom. I had no idea really that they were even going to bother doing the Grisha trilogy in collector's editions, but they have just released Shadow and Bone. It doesn't necessarily match the Six of Crows duology, but it is the same style, so that they will eventually be like a full Grishaverse set. I actually really like the Grisha trilogy. It's quite a few years old now, so it does have common tropes that are still and were very popular at the time, but in terms of like quality, it's pretty good. I do enjoy it. The Lives of Saints is the book that is in the Grisha trilogy that has all of the Saints of Ravka in it. Now, I believe that the way that this has been kind of created is because the Grishaverse is getting a TV show. I think it's a Netflix show, and they actually have the Lives of Saints book in the show. So this is like a replica of the one that they have in the show, but it's just kind of like an extra like reference guide to things in the Grishaverse world. I do actually like those kinds of things. I feel like it makes a world seem more real, so I would like to get my hands on that. I don't know if you guys would remember this, but the editions of classics I have are the Penguin English Library ones. I've recently watched The Haunting of Hill House. I binged it in 24 hours, and also The Haunting of Bly Manor, which I still have 2 episodes left of. Now, I do own The Haunting of Hill House. It came as like an extra book in an Owlcrate last year, but I don't have The Turn of the Screw by Henry James, which is what Bly Manor is based on. I believe that the book is only like 100 and something pages. It's not very long at all. So in the Penguin English Library editions is a bind up with Daisy Miller, and I was actually, I can't remember why, I was going through Henry James's books and reading his synopses. I think I wanted to know whether he was like an exclusively gothic horror writer, so I did read the synopsis of Daisy Miller and I don't remember it. But as these are the editions that I'm collecting and I want The Turn of the Screw, they just happen to be bound up together. I really would like to read Dark Lover by J.R. Ward. This is the first book in the Black Dagger Brotherhood. Oh, well, I did a whoopsie. As you guys know, I have been very interested in fantasy romance, paranormal romance and all of that this year, and you guys keep recommending that I read the Black Dagger Brotherhood, and I do really want to. It's just that there are no, I don't want to say nice editions, there's just no like acceptable editions of these books that don't have big scary topless men on them. That being said, yeah, I do really want to read it. Even before I was super interested in fantasy romance, I wanted to read it because I've been seeing people lose their minds over this series for the longest time, and I need to see what that hype is about. The Black Dagger Brotherhood, I don't know like a specific plot, but I do think that it is a vampire romance series, and all of the vampires, I think, I would assume, are in the Black Dagger Brotherhood. There is a book that has been receiving a lot of hype, which is fantasy romance again, and it is called The Deal with the Elf King by Elise Cover. Elise Cover is a self-published author who has been on my radar for quite some time because she has stunning covers of her books, and I am a sucker for a self-published book with a really nice illustrated cover. A Deal with the Elf King has been making its rounds on Twitter recently up to its release. I think it was released the day before I'm filming this, maybe. I don't know much about it aside from that it is a standalone fairy romance. There's going to be a series of these that are all standalones, I think, because I think Elise Cover is doing like a Married to Magic series. I think that's what it's called. I do want other books by Elise Cover. The first one that I wanted to read from her, which is the first that I saw, is The Alchemist of Loom. I can't remember what that's about because I saw it so long ago and added it to my Goodreads TBR, but I pretty much would like to read all of her books. I usually don't have multiple things from authors. Like, I'm pretty committed to wanting to read The Alchemist of Loom first, but come on, a standalone fairy romance, it's my thing. Something that is both my thing and also not my thing is Flowers in the Attic by Virginia Andrews. So I say it's not my thing because this type of book is generally not what I read. However, you guys know that I really love dark contemporary. I think that this is like a twisted gothic romance. It's a very popular book and I should know more about it than I do, but there are just like a couple of points that stick in my head about it. I believe that it is about a group of siblings that are kept in an attic for some reason. They're locked in there and they can't be seen. I don't know why. This is a very, is it taboo? Because I haven't read it. I don't know what the message is. Like, I don't know whether it turns out that the message portrayed throughout this book is wrong and it's like a teaching moment, or whether like the things that happen in this book that are pretty twisted are not glorified but not presented in a negative manner. But I think that it contains incest, which is why so many people know of this book. I'm a sucker for a dark contemporary. The more twisted and dark it is, the more I'm into it, honestly. Don't ask me what's wrong with me because I have no idea. I would also very much like The Inheritance by Robin Hogg. This, I believe, is a collection of short stories. I don't know whether they're connected to the Realm of the Elderlings or not. I just know that I really like Robin Hogg now. I'm about to start my 5th book from her, which is the 5th book in the Elderling series. I'm not sure whether I will continue onto her other stuff when I finish the Elderlings. Is it the Soldier's Son trilogy? But regardless, I'm not up there yet, but I would very much like to read Inheritance. I can't remember if some of the stories in here are connected to the Elderlings. I feel like they are, and that's why I want it now instead of just waiting until I finish the Elderling series. But eventually I aim to read everything from Robin Hogg. I think that she is an excellent author. I would also like the collector's editions of A Gathering of Shadows and A Conjuring of Light by V. Schwab. They are the second 2 books in the Dark Shade of Magic series. I have the collector's edition of the first book, and I received the Shades of Magic box from Illumicrate, which had a special edition of the first book, but also contained 3 dust jackets that are made to fit the collector's edition of the series. So I haven't decided if I'm going to use them as dust jackets yet. I think I am, but I do need the other 2 books in the series so that I can use them. I have read the first 2 books in the Shades of Magic series previously. I think I gave them 3 or 4 stars. I enjoyed them, didn't love them, but I am currently reading the works of V. Schwab with Jade from Jade Ray Reads. We've already read Vicious and Andy Leroux. This month we are reading The Monsters of Verity duology, and then I think after that we will be going on to Shades of Magic. So I'm very interested to see how I feel about this on reread, whether I feel kind of the same, whether I enjoy it more. I don't know which way we're going to go, but I will be be reading these soon, so I do actually need to own them, and I may as well get the collector's ones to match the darker shade of magic that I have, and also so that I can utilize those beautiful dust jackets. One that I'm not too sure if it's going to be my thing is Orphea by Joanne M. Harris. Is it? I've seen Joanne M. Harris's books before. Let me just check the author name. Yeah, Joanne M. Harris. I've seen her books before and they have stunning covers. They're absolutely beautiful. But I don't think I've ever really seen anybody read them. I know Ashley read one of her books, I think, and didn't like it. But Orphea, which I think is how you pronounce it, is a story about a mother who is searching for her child, and her child has either been murdered or kidnapped by the Fae. So I thought that if I am going to try Joanne M. Harris, then a fairy book is probably the best place for me to start. There's something about her that seems quite literary fantasy, which I don't normally read. I don't like to read it, but I thought that Gods of Jade and Shadow was going to be literary fantasy, and when I read it I ended up really enjoying it. So yeah, maybe I'm wrong, and I feel like a fairy story is definitely the place for me to start if I'm going to be trying this author. One that has really intrigued me, and I'm not sure if I'm gonna like it or not, but is The House on the Cerulean C by TJ Klune. This is, I think, is it an adult story that's like a middle grade book, or is it a middle grade that's good for adults? I can't remember which it is. I think it is a adult book that reads like a middle grade, but it takes place in an orphanage, and it follows somebody who is trying to determine which of 6 magical children is going to bring about the end of the world. I've heard great things about this. I'm really interested with it being a kind of middle grade story, but like adults will enjoy it, or you know, an adult book with middle grade themes. I can't remember which one it is, but there are middle grades that I really love. Like I love the Nevermore series because I think it has a lot in there for adults, and it's just a beautiful imaginative world. Like even though it is a children's story, I feel like it just transcends all age barriers. So because I do like stories like that, when they are appealing to a wider audience, I do think I'm gonna really enjoy this, but I'm not sure. It's one of those that I will never know if this is a book for me unless I try it out. Because I am a terrible person, I would also like the ACOTAR series in the new hardbacks. This is something I've been struggling with for quite some time because I have the original hardbacks. I love them. I have all of Sarah J Maas's books in hardbacks. I also have the collector's edition of Throne of Glass, ACOTAR. I've got the tour edition of Crescent City. I also have a special edition of Crescent City that Ashley made for me. The Waterstones edition of Crescent City. I have an arc of Crescent City as well. I didn't know if I wanted these. However, I have recently bought a set of dust jackets for Throne of Glass, and I'm hoping, fingers crossed, that the same people, which is Nerdy Ink, will make a set of dust jackets for ACOTAR, and if they do, I will want a separate set. And as well as that, the new book, or the new trilogy that is coming out starting, I think February is when A Court of Silver Flames is released, are going to have the new covers, so I would actually like to have them match. This is one of those things, you know, like I'm a collector, especially when it comes to Sarah J Maas, so I do want them. I don't overly love them as a cover design. It's weird because she is my favorite author and I am a collector of her books, but I'm not ridiculously offended by the covers, but I don't like them either. So yeah, I would like a new ACOTAR hardback set because I collect these things, but I have mixed feelings about it. Speaking of collector's editions and things like that, I would really like the illustrated editions of Assassin's Apprentice and what is the sequel called? Oh my god. Royal Assassin by Robin Hobb. These are new editions that have like full illustrated pages. They're like cloth bound hardbacks. They're really, really beautiful. I have been collecting the small mass market editions, and my idea is that when they publish the full trilogy, so Assassin's Quest should be released I think early next year, I want to replace my paperbacks with the hardbacks because I do truly adore the Farseer trilogy. I'm also about to start, as I've mentioned, I'm about to start the second book in the Life Ship Traders trilogy, and I'm really, really enjoying that. So it is a series that is worth it for me to have the illustrated editions. Something that I really, really want, and I know that I shouldn't, is The City We Became by N.K. Jemisin. This is like N.K. Jemison's love letter to New York. I believe that the characters are the different districts of New York. So you have like Manhattan, Brooklyn, Queens, the Bronx are all like personified, and I think the plot is about the rebirth of New York City. Now the reason why I shouldn't want this is because I still have the 5th season and also the first book in the Dreamblood series by N.K. Jemisin, and I haven't read them yet, but I've just heard so many great things about this. Like my friends, a couple of my friends have read this and really loved it. I have Audible credits credits that I need to use, and apparently the audiobook is really good, and it would be one that I'd listen to the audiobook and read along at the same time. Like I said with Elise Cover, I try not to buy other books by authors when I have a book that I haven't read, but I just think I'm going to really love this because people I trust really love it. So yeah, I would like The City We Became as well. A book that I've actually tried to buy many times is The Wicker King by Kay Ancrum. This is a story of two boys, and I believe it deals a lot with mental health. I think that there's a progression throughout the book as well, in that the pages are like decorated or illustrated, and it kind of records a progression of one of the main characters' mental states. I've heard that it's excellent. I've heard many reviews, some of them a couple of years ago, some of them very recently, but I kept trying to buy it because when I was doing a Waterstones order or any kind of order, I always make it so that I get free shipping, so I just add things that I've been interested in to my basket, and it was never in stock. So I have tried to buy this multiple times and I have not been successful. I do really want it. I really want to read it. I've heard great things about it. I think it's kind of, it is fantastical but also contemporary. The reviews are through the roof, and I need to find out what this is about. One that one of my patrons brought to my attention, and it was like quite a few months ago now, so I can't remember exactly who it was, but it is Gods and Monsters by J.D. Marie. This is a self-published series. The covers are absolutely stunning. I only very vaguely remember what this one is about, but I believe it is set in a world where a plague has begun and the saviors of the plague are monsters. One that I've seen around quite a lot and never really paid any attention to it until the last couple of months is The Falconer by Elizabeth May. So this, I thought, I don't remember which it is a young adult fantasy, and I just thought it was like a standard young adult fantasy. I'm not even sure if it is young adult now because I think it's fantasy romance. I think it's a historical fantasy as well. It follows a girl whose mother is killed by a fairy and she ends up on a fairy killing spree. I think she becomes like a fairy killer. Now if it is romance, as I believe, I'm going to assume that she ends up falling in love with a fairy, which I had no idea about this. Like, this series has existed. I've seen it around many times. Just thought it was like a standard young adult fantasy and nobody ever told me that it's actually a fairy romance. One that I've spoken about a lot quite recently and I do intend to read some point soon is Daughter of the Blood by Anne Bishop. This is a adult fantasy series that follows a very young girl who has like a prophecy surrounding her. I think she's a witch, and she is very malleable, very impressionable, so there's different sides of this political, like, I don't know, like two different political allegiances are trying to sway her one way or another. There is a lot of romance in this series. It is one of the series that Sarah J Maas loves and inspired her, but the romance is in the later books, I believe. I also believe that there are quite a few trigger warnings in this series. I don't know what they are because I haven't read it, but I do believe that some of the trigger warnings and also problematic nature of this book slash series is that the main character is extremely young at the beginning of the series. That is all I know. But I really want to read this, and I will be reading this soon. When I get around to a point where I can actually read this, I am going to buy this. Just not yet. I'm swamped. My TBRs are huge. The 1000th Floor by Catherine McGee is a book that I've wanted to read for a very long time. I actually have the second and third books in that series because I had an edition of a book, I think it was Warstone by Victoria Aveyard. I had two hardbacks. It was like a whole thing where like I was going to an event and I wanted to have read the book before I went to the event, but at the event I was going to get like a tour edition of it, so I bought it, read it, got the tour edition, and then I did a book swap on the standard hardback I had because I didn't necessarily want anything in return for it. I just wanted it to go to somebody who actually wanted it as opposed to like just giving it away. So I ended up with the second two books in the 1000th Floor series, and I just never got the first one. So I should really get on that. I can't even remember much about it now. I think it's like a sci-fi dystopian fantasy-ish story. It's definitely futuristic, I think, and it takes place in this building that has 1,000 floors. That's it. I think it has a little bit of like Gossip Girl-esque stuff in it as well, like high society rich people, but that's all I can tell you. It does, I promise it sounds interesting even though I can't remember anything about it. Speaking of Victoria Aveyard, actually, I used to love the Red Queen series. I still do love the Red Queen series. I would say it's still one of my favorite series, even though the second book I'm not a fan of. And last year Victoria Aveyard released a collection of short stories that go with the Red Queen series called Broken Throne. I just never bought it. I'm not really sure why. I know that the beginning, I'm assuming it is the first 2 stories in the book, are novellas that were already released in the Red Queen world, which I do already have a binder of. But at the end of Warstorm, Victoria Aveyard did not wrap up a certain couple of things to do with characters that I believe are wrapped up in the short stories in Broken Throne that I never bought, so I haven't read. I really should get on that because I've already read half of the book as well, because I've already read the other novellas. So it's not even like I'd have this big chunky book on my TBR. It would be a couple of short stories if I got around to buying it. This has changed from being like a cathartic book browsing books that I want to buy to me wondering why I haven't bought some of these books that I should have bought years ago. And the final one I want is one that I have heard a lot about, and it really excites me. It's a little bit different from my usual, I think, but it is Desperate Measures by Katie Robert. Katie Robert, I'm not sure what else she writes. I'm pretty sure she's just like a straight up romance writer or a straight up smut writer, but Desperate Measures is the first book in a series of standalone romances. I think they're standalone anyway, I don't think they intersect, but they are all romances based on Disney stories where the heroine falls in love with the villain. I think it's always the heroine and the villain. I don't know if there's anywhere it's like the hero and the villain, but the first one, Desperate Measures, is an Aladdin retelling where Jasmine falls in love with Jafar. So as we've established in this video, I like taboo stuff, I like grey morality, I like villains, I like fantasy romance. So these seem up my alley, and then people who don't even read like fantasy romance or anything have really loved these books. I think it is because, like I said, Katie Robert is like a straight up romance slash smut writer, and she's written these reimaginings, so like I feel like they fit a lot more into the adult romance category as opposed to like the fantasy romance, like high fantasy romance that I like to read category. I think I know I'm gonna love this book. Katie Robert is self-published as well. In case you've noticed in this video, I've been really into exploring self-published authors, especially over the last year. So there we have it. That went on for quite a long time, but I actually miraculously I feel so much better now than I did when I started filming. Honestly, this is irrelevant and should probably be in a vlog as opposed to this video, but I have been just not looking forward to filming at all over the last few days. I've just been in a little bit of a low mood slump, so I decided to make this video today. Not even to cheer myself up, just because it was like a cozy video thinking about books I'm excited to read, and it's worked. I feel great. So it worked for me, this little cathartic book browse. I hope this little cathartic book window shopping, books I want to read, books on my wish list, books I don't own video maybe worked for you as well. But let me know down in the comments if you have read any of these books and if you did enjoy them or not enjoyed them, as the case may be. But aside from that, please don't forget to like this video if you liked it and subscribe if you wanna. If you head into my description box, you will find a link to my Goodreads, Instagram and Twitter if you'd like to follow me on any of those, as well as a link to my Bookish body butter and candle website, the Instagram for that, and a 10% off discount code. That's it from me today, guys. Bye!
Oh, you bite your friend like chocolate. You say you will go where nobody knows, with guns hidden under our petticoats. We're never gonna quit it, no, we're never gonna quit it, no.